Hello, humans. I am your host, Bradley Martin, and this is Clearing the Way, a resource for small business. I talk with sales and HR experts, other small business owners, and anyone else that can provide you with information to clear your way to success. My guest today is Summer Voelker, owner of Kindred Flower Farm. After several years of regular yoga practice, she became a certified yoga instructor in 2017. She's a Pennsylvania Master Naturalist, Reiki Master, and treasurer of the Upper Chartiers Creek Watershed Association. She is also a current participant in I2E over at Ignite, so that's cool. Presentations are coming up, so best of luck on that. That's exciting. Kindred Flower Farm opened in 2020. You can find them at tons of local markets dealing all of their fresh flowers and the dried flower wreaths, which are super cool. They also have weekly fresh flower subscriptions, which are pretty cool. So if you are looking for a wonderful gift for all of your loved ones, check out that link down below. Summer, thank you for being a guest on Clearing the Way.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So let's start. You grew up locally, right?
I did,
okay,
yeah.
Where did you go to school?
So I went to Cannon McMillan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you involved in any activities or anything there?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, I played softball from a little kid into like high school. I really wasn't a big fan of the fast pitch, so
Okay.
I stopped. And then I ended up playing like slow pitch, just intramurally.
Okay.
I found like a adult ladies team. So, and then I was a Canonette. I was part of like
What is that?
It's a dance. It's part of the dance team. We're in the band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always loved dance growing up, and I didn't really take a lot of dance classes, but so I joined that, and I did that in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. Did you, the dance thing, was there any like aspirations of doing it? Was there just something you enjoyed?
Oh yeah. Like I just always was like a little like spinning, twirling, tumbling kid. So
Okay. This is something that came as I was like trying to figure out some of your past. Were you into the outdoors and everything, like nature, when you were younger?
Yeah. So my dad, I grew up on about 8 acres of land. And my dad always had like a big garden, and we have a creek that runs behind our house. We have little Chartiers runs behind my house.
Okay.
So my dad was a fisherman. We were always gardening and fishing. I wasn't so big, like little. I really loved nature and being outside. And then, you get bigger and you just want to like watch TV and be cool, VHS tapes and CD players and stuff. So, I kind of stepped away from that for a little bit.
Okay.
But it was definitely something that is so grounding and important to me that I had to, make it a bigger part of my life. So, yeah.
Okay. So, and was that something you said your dad he liked to fish? Was that like, did he encourage kind of like, okay, so you were into those things when you were younger.
Yeah.
I assume in like middle school, high school, whenever kids start to suck. Like that's when you started to suck and like started to do do less of those things. Was there ever like, did he try to get you to continue to do those things, or was there any of that, or no?
No. Okay. I mean, my dad, he's like a grizzly bear type of guy, like he's just, not saying he's not supportive, because he is very supportive, but definitely like he was like, I'm not up for that challenge of trying to get you to like come fishing with me.
Okay. Okay. So you're at Canamac. What was your plan? And well, actually, before that, what kind of student, like, how were you in school?
Yeah. So I was actually a really good student.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
any subjects that were like particularly interesting to you?
I love science, biology.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I know. And I was really good at math. I'm not very good at English and writing.
Okay.
But yeah, I love sciences. I loved human anatomy and physiology. And and I was a really good student. So I was on National Honor Society. Yeah.
So what was your plan after school?
Well, so college, it was not really ever like, it was just I had to go to college. And I mean, I was fine with that. I was excited about that. I knew in-state was something that I had to do. My mom was encouraging me to find a small school. And I was just like, no, I want to go to Pitt. I wanted to be in the city. Like that was something I really I didn't want to go to Philly. I wanted to be in Pittsburgh. I wanted to like...
Why? Where did that come from?
I don't know. I just think it was just so different from how I was raised. And, like somewhere in high school, I found punk music. And I just wanted to be like around, like that energy. I wanted to be around live music and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Okay. So is that where you ended up going?
Yeah. So I went to Pitt for a couple of years. I changed my major so many times.
Same. What did you start at?
So I started as a bio major.
Okay.
Then I changed to pre-chiropractic. Bet you didn't see that one coming.
Okay.
So I was pre-chiropractics, and then I was psychology, and then I was communications. And then
that's the weird, that's the like strange, all of the other ones are like, okay, I can kind of see how these.
For sure.
Okay.
And then I went into social work, and then I was like, just stop, sister.
Okay. So what, let's talk about those changes. Cause that is like so similar to exact same experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so what led to your you leave school, biology makes sense.
Yeah.
So what was, when you left, what were you like, the plan was to do that, but were you expecting to get a job in, like, what did you think was going to be the route?
Yeah, so I have like an older cousin who, he's a professor. He teaches, what is it? Genetic bio, like he teaches like all of these genetic things. He was doing all these studies down in Africa. I mean, like super cool things. And then I have this uncle who's a microbiologist, and he's a professor. And so like, not saying I wanted to move into that, but I just always thought like, oh, I'll do biology. Maybe I'll work in a lab for a little bit and do like some maybe, out field work, and then end up maybe teaching somewhere, so I didn't really have like an end goal, but I was like, oh, I'll just be like those guys.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. You have somebody that you can look to as like, that's an example of this. That sounds kind of cool. Like, let's try to do that. Okay. So what led to the first switch?
Well, so I didn't really excel in the bio. So I was like, let's challenge. Because I was like, if I just buckle down, I'll really do much better.
Yeah.
And so then they throw like OChem and bio and like physics and stuff. And I was just like, this is so dumb. Like, what am I doing? Like, and my mom was just like, why are you like punishing yourself? She just wanted me to finish, basically. And I was like, I was trying to find the way. And, like nothing fit. And things I enjoy but didn't have a passion for are kind of,
Yeah. Okay, so same thing with the rest of the changes. Like you take probably a semester. If I'll talk from my experience, like you take a semester of it, or you take a year of it. It's like, okay, maybe I was wrong again. Like
100%.
Okay,
100%. And I will say this: so I took time off, from school. And then I went back and I was just like, I'm just going to take a bunch of random classes that I want to take, right? So I took piano. and I took Russian fairy tales. And I took...
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I took... But it's all like things that you needed, you know? It's all things for your...
Yeah, there's all the gen eds and like all, like, or not the gen, like all of the extra credits that you have to get.
Right.
Yeah,
so I was just like, and that was like my most favorite semester. A bunch of random stuff.
Russian fairy tale. Okay.
Listen, I still have that Russian fairy tales book.
Okay.
I mean, college was a very long time ago.
Okay. Okay. So you go back and you do that.
Yeah.
Like what's the next step after? Like, okay, you did that, but what was the plan? Or did you know what the next step was? It's like, that's such a wild thing to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool move, but like, were you expecting to find something there, or like, what was the goal?
Yeah. I mean, I think the goal was just to like find something that I liked, that I excelled at, that I could finish a degree. And like, it just wasn't happening. And at the time I started working in like bars and restaurants, and, you know, oh, I'm sorry.
You're okay. Yeah,
and so like, that was something that was kind of like, well, I'm making money. I'm able to live on my own. Like, I don't have to have a degree. Like, I didn't even realize like that was an option for me, because it was always like, get a degree.
Yeah.
You're smart. Get a degree.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I wish I would have finished, but at the same time, it's not really a factor now in my life. And I think I'm happier because of these choices that I made.
Yeah.
But having a degree would be like cool to just be like, yeah, I finished. Look at me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice piece of it.
Yeah. But, you know, it still took me forever to pay off student loans. They're paid off, but like, you know.
Okay. Okay. So eventually you decide, no more. I'm not spending any more money.
Yes.
Okay. So did you know you were making money at that point? Cool. And live on your own. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Did you have any thought at what like what was next? Like what was the plan? Or was there any plan? Or was it just like, let's just continue figuring it out?
Yeah, I mean, that was the plan. It was like my early 20s, and I was just having fun, being free, you know? And so that's what I did. And I just didn't really save. I went to like, I went on cool vacations and, you know, went to a lot of shows, and I had a really good time.
So what were you still working in bars and restaurants at that point?
Yeah. So kind of like flash forward a little bit, and I ended up getting really good at bartending. And so I ended up working as like this, you know, they call them like mixologists and stuff, and sounds so like makes me cringe and like roll my eyes. But I excelled at this, and so I ended up working at like fancy restaurants, and and
that's kind of cool.
It is. It was totally cool. You know, and a wonderful opportunity. And I did different cocktail competitions and went to conferences and and I was like
cool.
a brand ambassador for a couple of spirits companies.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's a little bit of a curveball. That's
I know,
cool.
A total curveball. Yeah.
That's cool. That's a nice little party trick that's I'm sure nice to whip out every once in a while.
It is. I can still like make a really good Manhattan or old fashioned, and you know, sometimes I bust out some like obscure boulevardiers and you know.
Okay, so you're getting pretty good at that. That's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like when you start to get kind of solid with something, it's like enticing to just continue doing that. Did you want to move on from there, or like, 'cause that feels like kind of a fun scene to be a part of?
Oh, listen, 100%. It was the most fun. And I mean, like,
cocktail conferences?
Yeah.
What?
There's this thing, it's called Tales of the Cocktail. It's down in New Orleans. I mean, like, It was
That sounds wonderful.
Manhattan Cocktail Classic. Yeah,
Okay.
It was super duper fun. But like, I met my husband. Well, I'd known my husband, but we got together, and he was really supportive of all of this. But like, I wanted to have a family.
Yeah.
And so, and there are bartenders that have families, but like, my lifestyle was bananas. I mean, like I was working between like managing like the bars and doing like the brand ambassador stuff. And we started with like a couple of like we started our bartenders guild. So like I was doing all these things. I was working like 70 hours a week. And I just, it's not the most healthy environment.
Well, and your hours are probably like
and my hours
the
were
worst.
bananas. And like literally part of my job was just going out, which is a blessing and a curse. But like when you want to like start a family and
not ideal.
Right. Like we had tons of fun. I had a blast. I'm so glad that I did all of those things and had that experience. But I knew for me, it was not a sustainable, long-lasting choice.
Yeah.
So I kind of like came in hot and then like left like Irish goodbye to everyone, basically. And I say that, being part Irish and like I'm not trying to demean Irish people. I love them.
Okay. Damn, that's wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, okay, what now? Holy crap.
So you leave that.
Yeah.
Did you man, I feel like there's so much within that. Like, okay, so you have all this competition. Like that had to be very difficult to leave.
It was, because a lot of it was ego-driven, like people telling you you're really good or they want you to.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, it feels wonderful. But, like I started therapy, and it was kind of like, where do you want to be? And like legit, the life that I live now is the life that I explain to my therapist. And I'm not even like nothing short of anything that I said to her.
That's great. So how long ago was that?
That was in 2012?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of that, and then I also saw somewhere that's like roughly when you were starting, like you got into yoga, you got into all of that kind of at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, so those, and so you start those things and you're still bartending?
No, so yeah, I left bartending. I was like suffering losses, and I just kept thinking like it's because I'm not living like a healthy lifestyle. Like, and it wasn't partying or drinking or anything. It was like just working so much at that point. And so, and like the late hours. And so I was just like, I just need to change the whole scene, like the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure with that, like, because of your hours, you don't really have time to like spend with people that are important.
Right.
Or anything that's important. Like your hours are when everybody else is doing or free.
Right. And like at the time my husband was working like the second shift at his job. So he was working, 4 p.m. till like 2 a.m. So, I mean, for us, we could still spend time together, but basically everyone else, was like, so that was challenging. And so it just was something I just had to go. And so I didn't work for a little bit just to kind of wrap my head around like all the things that I was leaving and, come to terms with that experience of my life just ceasing,
How long did that take?
I think I took maybe like 4 or 5 months. Like I wasn't long, but like, we had enough money that, we weren't in straits or anything.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a couple of months to just regroup and figure things out.
That had to have been very difficult.
It was. But like, you know what? Like,
positive, but like,
yeah,
that's a big, especially like something like that where it's a job for sure, but the piece of like, of it like you can see the enjoyment of people, and you get that like you said, oh, this is fantastic. You're really good at like that. All feels great, and now it's like, hey, you don't get that anymore. You get it in maybe different ways, but it's not like from random people, which for some reason feels good. Which is like, I don't know you, but you're telling me this, and that's like, oh, it's a little ego stroke, a bunch of little ego strokes every day. And now there's none of that. That's tough.
Yeah.
What, okay, so during those 4 or 5 months, however long it was, did you have anything like that really helped through that?
I mean, so I want to say like my family, because like at the time I was like grieving too. There was like a lot of loss, I said.
Uh-huh.
And so, I was lucky my sister moved back into town. So she was around, and I like started crocheting. Like it was like I had time to actually try things and explore things that were bringing me like little joys.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really nice. And I realized like in like saying it now, like how fortunate I was to have that time to explore little things like, and I think that's probably when I started growing flowers too, was during that time, in our old house. So yeah.
Okay.
And I ended up after that, like working at just like a chiropractor's office. I was like the front desk girl, and they were like, "What did you do before?" I mean, like, and they like Googled me, and they like found video. Like they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is wild," So it was funny, and I'm not saying don't Google me, okay? But yeah, it was. I'm glad that I transitioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're able to kind of explore a little bit. Man, that had to have been. I'm sure it took like a couple weeks to even just if your work like with those hours and the amount of hours, and then going from that to I kind of don't have any real responsibilities with work right now. Okay, that's 70 extra hours a week. That's wild.
It was.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was crazy. But like my husband and I, we were like, we took a trip. Like we went to the mountains. We went down that was the first time we went to like the Smoky Mountains, and that's like really a special place for us. And I got to visit my brother-in-law and sister-in-law down in Kentucky. So like we, did little things to kind of regroup.
So when did you start getting back into all of the like reading through a bunch of the things? Like nature is such a big part.
Yeah.
When did that kind of reignite?
So that happened whenever I did the yoga teacher training. That kind of opened up that floodgate.
Okay.
Just because I don't know if you are a yoga person or...
I am not regular, but I've done it enough.
So, I mean, you get, even just doing it a little bit, you get like the benefits of it. So imagine a training where you're spending like multiple hours, like deeply engrossed in, yoga and, the traditional writings. And so it just like shifts a lot of things. And it's really a magical, magical time, at least for me. And it just made me feel so much more connected. And I think that was like, when I was in the training, we had like the eclipse that happened.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that, but it was just like all these weird things happening. And my sister-in-law, who I love so much, like a sister, she lives down in Louisville, and she had done a Master Naturalist program down there. And she was like, you would lose your mind. Like, it's so cool. I get to do all this and I get to do all that. And I was like, oh, like, I just put that in my back burner.
Yeah.
So, but that just started as like, just really doing a lot more nature.
So when you were taking that class, so over what time period, how many, is several hours at a time?
Yeah, so it was a 200-hour training.
Okay.
And because like my daughter was just a little over a year when we started, and the person that did my training, Jen Ferris-Glick, who's amazing, and if anyone hears this, follow her. She is amazing. She had 2 twin boys too that were also like babies. So it was just kind of like, how can we make this work? And so we met twice a week for like 4 hours or 5 hours each time. And we split it up. So like we were just meeting, I was like, I think we started in January or February. And so I was finished in June or July. So it was a really long time frame. But then like, there's certain things that you have to do to complete this training with like classes you have to take. And, I ended up doing over 200 hours worth of training, but I have 200 hours. That's my certificate.
Okay. Damn, that's crazy. Okay, so why did you, like, what led you to why did you want to do that? Like, why did you want to get that certification or to go through the training?
Goodness, I don't know. I think it was just like part of bringing me closer to my practice and like just how much yoga helped me in like healing and reconnecting with the parts of myself that were really important to me, not less ego driven, more just like the things that bring you joy just because like it's joyful, being around a creek or smelling a flower. So, and I was like, I think maybe I could teach yoga. I think I could do it. And so when Jen when we met and she was like, why do you want to do this? I'm like, well, I think maybe I could teach a class or two. And she was like, I mean, I think you could too, but like, why, And I was like, well, there's so many reasons to do this. And she was like, well, that's cool. Like, let's go. So we did it,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you finished that. Did you plan on so you plan on teaching occasionally?
Yeah.
Did you want to do that regularly? Like, did you have any intention to do that not full time, but maybe more along those lines of that's what's next, or like what?
I mean, like, it's still like I wasn't sure what was next. And I knew I wanted to teach maybe a class or two, and that's what I ended up teaching, was a class or two, and I would fill in for people. I mean, I'm not, like some things I'm naturally good at, like making a cocktail, which is weird. But
that's a nice skill to have.
Listen, I can say that with honor. I can make a drink. Okay. Yeah. But like the yoga and the teaching aspect of it was something that was so foreign to me. And it took me a really, really long time to feel comfortable doing that.
Okay.
I would be so nervous. I would write everything down, all the poses, because if I didn't write them down, I would forget.
Okay. That's interesting. So what's weird about that is like, okay, so you're doing all of the cocktail things, which are for people, in front of people. Like, so what was it about yoga that, like, it feels like you would naturally be, at least the instruction part, or like being in front of people and doing that, it feels like that would be something that is still natural because you were doing it. Like, I mean, what was uncomfortable about it for you?
I don't know. I mean, like, I think it was just, like the interactions that you have with people at a bar, even if they stick around, are minimal and light and just kind of like, hey, what do you like? I can do this. Cool, cool, cool. Hey, have a good night. Oh, do you need anything?
Yeah.
It's very much easy. I mean, like, I take my yoga practice pretty seriously, and what I want to like translate to people is, yoga is so much more than just a physical practice. And so having people have that experience from my class just put pressure on me that I was just so nervous about.
That makes sense.
When really, yoga is so many things and so many things to so many different people, but I wanted them to make sure that they knew, it's not just about touching the toes or stretching your body. Like, that's amazing that's one of the benefits. But
so was there any, when you're starting to do that, like starting to teach, did you, was there like any struggle with that? Because I imagine wherever you're teaching, some people are there for more than stretching.
Yeah.
Some people are there to stretch. Some people are there for a work. Like, was there any not pushback, but like, I don't know, did you struggle with that at all? Where like wrapping your mind around the idea that people might be there for other things, and how did you handle that?
I mean, like, that's a wonderful question because, yeah, I mean, I feel like the majority of people that would come, and this is fine. I just want to preface this.
Yeah.
However you enter yoga is a great place to enter yoga. If it's to get a workout and sweat, fine. But so like I I would feel bad because like my classes aren't classes that you're going to like get your workout and sweat on. And so like people would come to class and they'd be like, okay, whatever that was. And I would feel so bad because they wouldn't come back. A couple people would come back.
Okay.
And a couple people still come to my classes, but and that's something that I've really had to like let go, is that attachment to like, I'm just not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And I think that happens with age too. It's just kind of like, I don't have to please you. I don't have to make this something that's going to check all of your boxes. I want to be of service and I want you to have a good experience, but like, it's okay if you don't come back.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm sure once you got to that point, that probably helped with the anxiety or the stress of preparing for it too.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But it took, because coming from that service industry background where you want everyone to leave with a pleasing, positive experience. And so like that was, and I mean, I still, in dealing with flowers, want everyone to have a pleasing, positive experience.
Yeah.
It's like so ingrained in me. And having to like, not everyone is going to be your customer. Not everyone is going to, you're not their cup of tea.
Yeah.
It's okay. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's, so how long do you think it took to finally get to that, like, okay, I'm like, how long were you teaching before you finally let that piece go?
Like 2 hours ago. No, I'm just kidding.
That wouldn't be surprising. Like, that feels very difficult, especially, like you said, like, that's something that you were doing for however many years, and, like, for so many hours, and you were good at it. So it's like, I'm good at making people happy.
Right.
Cool.
And that's something that I can tell. I'm really good at reading people too. So when someone would come to class and you can tell that they're just like, what is this? And so like I would find myself backpedaling and like trying to like do things, which I want to say like, so the current studio that I work at now, the instructor there, Kate Olson, is Lakeview Yoga in Peters Township. She is wonderful. And so, and she's very much, she's taken my classes, obviously, but, because that's just something I think over the past, working at her studio, because she's so just like, no, I like how you teach. I like what you teach. And it's okay. So like she gave me like that, not approval, but just like, no, you keep doing this.
That's cool.
And as soon as like I accepted that and I took that, more people come to my classes.
Yeah, well, because you're not trying to cater to. It's like,
right.
I'm sure, like you said, you're adjusting midway through, and it's like, well, now everyone's kind of off kilter, and like, well, we're kind of doing
authentic.
this. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and people get, like, you can tell.
100%.
Okay, that's so. How long have you been there?
So I started working there in 2018. Whenever we moved back to Washington County. So.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, but I want to say, I mean, like, it took probably the pandemic before I was just like, well, people come if they want to come, and they're, and that was because everything went to online classes, virtual classes. And so it was like sometimes I would teach, there'd be one person,
Yeah.
And so it was just like, you just have to let it all go. You just teach and, make sure everyone's safe. And
was there anything that helped you get to that? Like, was there anything that you were doing that helped you kind of like cross over into that, like letting the other side of it go? Was there any or did it just kind of happen eventually?
I think it just kind of happened. I think, I got comfortable with who I was and the teacher I was. And it wasn't about me, teaching, exactly how I was taught to teach. It was about finding my own voice and, and really landing into like stepping into my own authenticity.
Yeah.
Which was like a big part of my training, but it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
Well, yeah. It's especially like we've said it however many times, but especially with the background that you had.
Yeah.
Because that's not really that's not what you're doing. You're pleasing people.
Yeah.
I'm here to make dope cocktails that everybody loves. Okay, cool. I'm fantastic. But now
right.
It's like, okay, people are still going to love this, but it's way better if I love it too. Like, okay, but I have to love it first or everyone's going to know I'm kind of like not really doing what I want to be doing. And it's like kind of half this and half that. Like, yeah, that's okay. So eventually you get there though.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that point, were you working working anywhere else or did you have, like how long were you at the chiropractor job?
A couple of years. I was there, I think maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. I was there until I had my daughter.
Okay.
And then I really wanted to just focus on, it took us so long to have her that I just wanted to kind of enjoy it. And I say that like, I'm really lucky that I got to do that, but like daycare is crazy expensive and it would have been like my whole paycheck just to put her in daycare. So, I mean, part of it was financially, it was just a draw.
Yeah.
But the other part of it was I really wanted to experience being a mom and have that and, be able to just spend time with her.
Yeah.
So I did.
And were you teaching during that time at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got my certification after she turned 1. So she was about 1.5 when I started that program.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, teaching yoga a couple times a week is
a couple hours and
no big deal.
Okay. So at any point up to that point, was there any idea of starting a business?
Well, thinking about like yoga, right? So it's really hard to make a living in yoga. The yoga instructors that that are like making money work their butts off. Like, and the majority of them not only have to teach like a ton of classes a week, but they have to offer private clients. And so it was like, maybe I should open up my own studio, but I just didn't feel comfortable yet. I was like, I need like at least years under my belt to really have that. So that, I mean, it was something that just kind of like breezed through my consciousness. And then I was like, no, girl, no, you're not there. But like my goal was that by the time my daughter turned 5, I wanted to be bringing something back to the family,
Okay.
So, because I was like, when she starts elementary school, like, let's start contributing because like we were able to pay bills and do the things. But it would be nice to not be worried about doing the things or,
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by the City of Washington Citywide Development corporation. If you're a small business in Washington and you need another set of eyes on your situation, or you need help growing, you're not sure what's going on with the business, you can't figure out how to get out of the current struggles you're going through, you're just looking for ways to become a little bit more efficient, anything else like that. Or if you don't know where to go next, you don't know who to find to fix whatever the problem is, reach out. The WCDC is a free resource. We're here to help. The links are down below. Reach out. Like I said, it's a free resource. Now back to the episode. Okay, so, and did you have any idea, like, did you have any plans for what that thing was going to be, or
no?
Just
it was
something
either like,
was going to happen.
Yeah, something was going to happen. I was going to either take a job, do something. I had done like the Master Naturalist training, which I can't use that to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
But
what is that?
So the PA Master Naturalists are a group of volunteers. And they basically run this program where you do all of these educational sort of, you go through this educational training where you learn about geology and flow and basically anything in that, birding, like we did it all. It's super cool. The program is awesome. I'm so happy I did the program. And then like part of it is that you have to do so many volunteer hours per year and so many advanced training hours per year to keep up with your PA Master Naturalist certification.
Okay.
Or your status or whatever. But you're just an unpaid volunteer. You actually pay to join the program. But the training was 100% worth it. It was
That's cool.
It was super cool. I mean, we did a foraging class. We did a mushrooming class. We learned
how long
about.
Was that? How long was the?
I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was like 8 weeks or 9 weeks, and then you have to, like the I2E program, you have to present with them like what your service project is going to be. And they don't, there's no money in it but it's just kind of like, you have to show them you're going to do something with all of this training. What
was your project?
So my project, it was actually like, it was like a nature school for kids because I was taking my daughter to the free forest school that was out in Mount Lebanon at Bird Park. And it was so funny because Pam Kilgore was in my class, right? So we were the first Washington County class, and Pam Kilgore was in it, and she's doing all of these nature for preschoolers. That was like her project too. So she's doing it. I just joined the Chartiers Creek Watershed Association and work with them. So
okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, totally cool.
Okay, so got a little sidetracked there, but
it's okay.
Okay, so you didn't know you were going to take a job, you were going to do something.
Yeah.
You didn't know what, though.
Didn't know what.
Okay. So you had briefly considered a yoga studio at some point.
Yeah.
But prior to any of that, like, was there any business ownership in your families or like, was there anything that led you or that made you consider like, oh, I could probably own my own business at some point, like, or before any of that?
No. No. No, like my parents both, I mean, my dad's been retired for many years, but my mom always had a job. Josh's family, they just worked for people. Yeah. So, I mean, no one was an entrepreneur. I don't know. I feel like I'm always just kind of random, like I enjoy it.
Feel so similar.
I enjoy like a bunch of random things. And so, and I don't mind working for people, but I think, I was just like, if I could take some random things that I like and turn it into a job, like that would be pretty all right. So
That is pretty all right. That's pretty cool. Okay. So were flowers like first option, or like did you go through a couple things of like, maybe I could start this thing, or maybe I could do this, or like before you actually open Kindred Flower Farm, was there any? Did you take any jobs? Did you consider any jobs? And were there any other like things that you were going to try to conjure up to make this like,
I like that.
I'm going to take these things and this is how I'm going to try to make money? Was there anything else, or this was first option and you ran with it?
So there wasn't anything else. But it was like in the middle of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, like all good ideas.
Yeah.
So like my daughter started school in 2020, like kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just wild because, I had already, like when we bought our land and our property that we're on now, that was 2018. And I put in like a big vegetable garden, 2019 and 2020. And, there's only so many zucchinis you can give people. And then they're just like, no, thank you.
I'm good on zucchinis.
Right.
I've got plenty for the year.
But like, I love growing. Right. And so I was sitting there. This is like 2020. My daughter had started school. I was sitting there one night talking with my husband, and I was like, my goal was when she was 5, when she started school, I was going to start bringing in income. And I'm trying to like, I've got my little notebook, and I'm like, how am I going to bring in income? Mm-hmm. And my mom, she was like on the verge of retiring, or did retire partially. She's back to working again. But she was just like, I'd be willing to invest. Like, so Canonsburg's our closest little town. Canonsburg is trying to revitalize their neighborhood. There's all of these businesses that are going up for rent. Like, would you and your sister maybe consider doing something? And so one of my favorite stores in Pittsburgh is the Farmer's Daughter.
Okay.
It's over on the north side. It's this, they're florists, but they have this like beautiful, magical store, right? You walk in and you are just blown away by how gorgeous everything is. And they have like gifts, and they have a wall of flowers where you can build your own bouquet. I mean,
that's
like,
cool.
Oh, it is.
That's pretty cool.
Chef's kiss, beautiful. And I was like, gosh, that'd be so cool to do something like that around here. And, it would have to do well. Like, how could it not do well? So I was kind of discussing that with my husband, but I was like, God, you need so much money to do that. And like Canonsburg already has like 2 really well-established florists. And not saying that would be its own kind of niche thing, but still, I was like, I can't do that. And he was like, you like grow flowers. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Okay. And he was like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, like, why wouldn't we? And I had already I buy my seeds from this company. She's called Floret, and she's based out of the Skagit Valley in Washington. And it is like, her farm is the most magical place you have ever seen, hands down. If you have an opportunity, like, search it online, you will be blown away. And I was like, that's what I need. Like, that's what I want. And he was like, well, where would we sell? And I was like, I don't know, like farmers markets. I don't know, like, I'll just figure it out, like there was no plan, but I was like, I'm going to grow flowers. Like, that's the business I'm going to do. This is perfect. Because I was already growing flowers, but not to that level. Yeah. So.
Okay. So were you, how long had you been into growing did that start when did that start actually?
Yeah. So I was growing things in our old house, but it was, when I tell you, so we lived in Brookline section of Pittsburgh, which is all hills, but we had like a little backyard, and it was tiered. And so I was like, I'm going to grow in this level area that they've tiered off, that obviously they had to have had a garden in there before. I mean, like, the amount of crap we found in the dirt back there.
It was just a dump site. Yeah.
It was just a dump site. Like, everything there was carpet, there was tires, and I was like, well, I can't grow vegetables in there because like, who knows what kind of chemicals have been leached into this soil.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll grow flowers. So that was like the first time I ever grew dahlias, and I didn't dig them up at the end of the season. I, let my tubers rot, because I didn't know any better. But yeah, I had daylilies on my hillside. My best friend and her mom are daylily people, their families hybridize and stuff like that. So
when you were growing up, was there did you guys garden a lot? Was that
so my dad always, and my grandpa always, they are country boys through and through, always had massive gardens. Didn't matter how many excess zucchinis, they were growing them. And my grandma, she had a greenhouse. She grew flowers.
Okay.
And my other grandma, she was a propagating whiz, and she would propagate roses. So I've always been around gardening and flowers.
Did you help at all when you were younger?
I wouldn't really help. I would dig potatoes with my dad and eat them raw. That's I know,
cool
right?
Move, I guess.
cool move, I guess. But I always loved it.
Okay.
So I didn't really learn. I mean, I watched my dad start seeds, which is how I kind of had the basis, and I borrowed his little light to start seeds for the first time in 2019, whenever I started flowers and stuff. But yeah, I didn't have any training or anything like that. I had to learn everything.
Okay, so Okay, so kick back into you're deciding this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
The switch from doing this just for yourself and people to selling this, how was that transition?
I mean, when I say I didn't know what the heck I was doing, I really didn't know what the heck I was doing. And that's, I invested that first season in Floret offers learning modules.
Okay.
And so that covers everything from starting seeds to pricing to everything.
That's helpful.
1,000% helpful. And thank God, because growing it to that scale is just not something I ever knew I could do. And starting everything from seed is not, it was just a lot. So my first season was just kind of will there be flowers? That was the only thing I was concerned about.
Okay.
And so I had signed up to just be a visiting vendor at the Washington Farmers Market because I love that market. Just in case I did have flowers, I was I knew worst comes to worst, I could throw some sunflowers in the ground and I would have sunflowers, But having the kind of quality flowers that I wanted to supply the market with was something that I was just question mark, who knows? So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so was it the scale at which you had to do it? That was the new challenge, or did the business side early on was that even a concern, or was it kind of just I'm just going to sell things and we'll figure it out?
Yeah, that's pretty much I'll just sell things and figure it out. And I got an LLC, I knew I had to pay sales tax. There's little things just from previous, workings and people. I knew I had to do certain things in order to sell. I knew I had to get insurance. And that was part of the workshop that I did. It was kind of going over that end of it, but it was mostly just kind of can I?
Yeah.
Not.
How much more were you roughly? Was this double the amount that you had to grow, or how much?
Okay, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the first time I ever grew flowers from seed was 2019, and I grew probably like 6-cell trays of
Okay.
I did snapdragons, I did chocolate lace flowers, calendula, and there was one more because I don't even think it like grew. Okay. But it was just for my little front garden area. And then like, you buy some zinnias and a little salvia here. But like that was all I started from seed. They were all floret seeds, and some of them still come up. Like those chocolate lace flowers, they're invasive. Don't grow them. But I mean they're beautiful. But so like I went from literally starting maybe like 18 plants. Okay.
Okay.
To 72 cell trays. I did like I want to say like 40 72 cell trays.
Okay. Oh my God.
Right.
Okay.
And that's not even like the things that you direct sell. So like the scale was something that I was just, hence why I'm like, can I do this?
Oh my God.
Right.
Okay.
Like
so
I
you weren't prepared at all for like you liked doing this thing, but you had kind of been doing you'd been doing it, but like from start to finish, you had kind of done it before.
Right.
That is such a wild move.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
When I say like I put a lot of like my husband is a saint basically because he's just like, okay, you're going for it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going for it. And I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And I did.
Okay, so was there any part that is so crazy? That's so crazy. Was there any point in that where you're like, I don't know if this was a good idea?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because so like the things that you don't think about, right? So I was so concerned about deer, right? There's a ton of deer in our area. And I'm like, gosh, deer. What am I going to do about these dang deer? And like, I don't have money for fencing and I don't have money, And what I don't think about is the little rabbits. The deer are nowhere to be found on my. I know I'm not supposed to knock on the table, but I'm knocking on the table.
You can knock on the table.
Okay. So like I had signed up for a market in June. That was going to be my very first market. Okay. I had to cancel because rabbits, everything that had a bloom on it, the rabbits just came and ate. And I was like, oh my God, like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I stressing myself out? And then I was like, I'm just going to cancel because like, I'm not going to show up with a bouquet of flowers to the beautiful, amazing Washington farmers market with all those like, I can't do it. And so I did. I canceled and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
But then, I was just like, this was, and like you have no control over the weather.
Yeah.
You have like there's so many variables in farming. And especially when you don't have a buffer, like you're growing on 20 acres where you just throw stuff in, something's going to grow,
Yeah. So that first year, how did it go?
It went amazing. Like growing went amazing. I was blown away. But I mean, I feel like when you're working, when you're out there, when you're doing it and you're putting forth the effort, the love and the care, like things happen then,
Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to.
So how quickly did the like, what the hell am I doing turn to like, oh, okay, like this is the right move? Because I don't know enough about growing flowers to know what the like, okay, you're starting with these seeds and now you have something. Like, how long until you were finally like, okay, this was, all right, we're good. Like, this was the right move.
Yeah.
I think this is going to work.
I think when I was able to not only bring flowers to the market, but people were buying them.
Okay.
And like Betsy, the market director, she said to me, she was like, I know you've only signed up for like one market a month, but if you have flowers and you want to come back, like just let me know. Cause not all vendors show up. And I was like, oh, so I can just like come? And she was like, yeah, just let me know. Like they're so nice and accommodating there. And so I called her up and I was like, I have flowers. And she's like, I've got space for you. Come on down. And I was like, okay. So like when I could do that and the garden was like beautiful and things are like growing like gangbusters. I was like, yeah, like this is it.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, like literally I get chills just like thinking about it now because it was so, you get the feedback, not just from the people, but like the flowers. Like the flowers are healthy. They are thriving. Like this is what it's all about. So
that's cool. Okay. So,
yeah.
Okay. So like first year you've got it. Okay, cool. This is something that I can do.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Okay. So at what point did you start kind of expanding into, I assume from there you started jumping into different markets? Or like
Yeah.
how did you plan on getting to more people? Because I assume at some point it's like I've got a bunch of flowers and I got to get rid of them.
Well, I donated a lot of flowers that
Okay.
first season. I gave so many flowers away. And I mean, like, just because I wanted to. Like, I could have tried doing X, Y, and Z, but I was just like, I was so happy that things were growing,
Yeah.
So yeah, I signed up I did like a couple of markets at Peters Township and I forget what the question is.
But just like how did you did you know how you were going to get them to more people? Because you
Okay.
have, I assume, extra or a bunch to
Yeah.
get rid of. You're only doing the Washington Farmers Market at the
Yeah.
beginning. Did you quickly try to get into different markets, or you're giving some away?
Yeah.
Did you try to sell any online? Like, what was that kind of the process of like, okay, I have a bunch of extras now.
Yeah.
Now what?
So I did have a way to purchase online, which I'm glad I have a website. I wish I wouldn't have purchased a website so early on because like I had a website before I had flowers.
Yeah. Well, that's that like I've had so many people that are like, "Oh, I want a website." And it's like I don't know if you need that yet. It's
Right.
like it's the sexy thing to have. It's like, "Oh, cool. Now I'm official." Like have the LLC, have my website. Cool. Maybe not the best use of money yet. Definitely need one, not yet.
100%. Like, and like realizing like I could have just had a landing page
Yeah.
and like collected emails and just had a pretty picture. In hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
New flower farmers that listen to this, don't get a website your first year. You'll be
Yeah.
okay. Or do, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was able to sell some things online and yeah, but I think I think I was at Washington Farmers Market like every week in August of and September of my first season.
Okay.
So like that was like my big push was just that. And I knew like the following season I wanted to offer subscriptions. So I was really hoping I would make connections at that farmer's market and kind of maybe some of those people would want to buy flower subscriptions from me.
So what were you at that point? What were you selling? How were you selling online?
So I had like it was just like a bouquet. Like you could get like
Okay.
yeah, like a small or a medium or
Okay.
I think maybe it was just 2 sizes of bouquets.
Okay. And so you wanted to do the subscriptions the second year. Was that something where did that come
I mean,
from?
I steal everything. All my
Yeah.
good ideas come from other
Yeah.
people. So yeah, I mean, like there's a bunch of flower farmers. There's a bunch of like CSAs that offer like bouquet add-ons and stuff in the city. So I mean, it's not an original idea, but I remember calling it like a flower CSA, and people were just like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I was like, "A subscription," and they were like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
So so yeah, I knew I wanted to do that my second year. And like the only way I knew how to like let people know was just like online. And so I did like a giveaway.
It's
That was
normally a
like,
good way to get people
yeah, it was like
engaged.
2021. Yeah, I think before Christmas, I was like, this is the perfect gift for yourself or for a loved one. This is going to be like 4 months of flowers. with delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I think that opened up because I got a lot of traffic, like, because it was like, tag 2 friends, share, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I got a couple of people that I wouldn't have that actually ended up purchasing that probably wouldn't have done that if I wouldn't have had that giveaway.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, okay. So how, like, okay. So that first year, obviously the initial struggle is like, is this even going to work?
Right.
Can I even produce this much?
Yeah.
Okay. Step one. Well, first, how did you decide how many you were going to? I assume that was part of like the workshop. Like, here's a good amount to start with, or something like that.
Well, they give you like an actual workbook, that you can just enter in the size of your field. Okay. And then you can put in like how long your rows are, how wide, what the spacing is of the flower. I mean, like seriously, the workshop was worth it for that alone, because like even now to this day, I'm like, well, I know if it's 9-inch spacing for these flowers, I'm going to need 3 trays minimum for this row or for half a row.
Okay. So that was all. So, okay. So that first year, was there anything aside from like, can I do this? Was there anything that came up on either the business side or on the growing side that was like a significant hurdle that you were a little like unsure of? Or was it pretty like not smooth sailing, but kind of that first year?
I mean, I don't want to say it was smooth sailing, but like
Nothing significant.
Nothing significant.
Okay, so after that, year 2, you are planning on the subscriptions. You do the giveaway, and that's helpful. How did you see a big jump in like? How did year 2? Were there any other issues that came up that year that were like, oh, this is brand new now? Like I did not experience this in year 1.
Like business wise or growing wise?
Yes,
so
all of the above.
I had a lot because I grew more flowers this past season.
Okay.
So my second season, I grew more and I grew more intensely. And we had.
What does that mean?
So like I decreased because my space didn't change, but I decreased the space between the rows.
Okay.
Not by choice, but it ended up, I was just stuck with it. My dad, he was like, well, Ro's going to go here, And I was like, okay, well, you've got the tiller. So this is happening now.
All right, I guess we're making this work.
Right. And I mean, like, I'm grateful that he's helping me. Yeah. But, you give me lemons, I'll make lemonade. Yeah. But so I had like a lot, like the space between rows was like 12 inches. Now the year before it was like between 24 and 18, which is not. But when things start really going, like literally, I would have to be like shuffling sideways and like parting the Red Sea, and yeah. So, but with that, I also got a lot more disease last year. There was a lot more pressure with disease with insects, because I grew like that. And Western Pennsylvania is a wet place, And so, yeah. So it was like, okay, I don't want to use chemicals. I don't want to use, fungicide, pesticide. So it was a lot more labor intensive for me to go out there and like take off disease leaves and try to combat things naturally. And,
yeah. So did you adjust that from year 2 to year 3? Like go back to somewhere probably in between the two? Or it's like, let's deal with this less.
Right.
Instead of a lot more work.
Right. I mean, because like air just helps things to circulate. And so you don't have all that disease pressure. But I mean, I still had flowers and healthy flowers, but it was just a lot more of me in the field, like tending.
Yeah. So without you don't have a greenhouse, right?
So I have a small shed that we converted into a greenhouse, but that's just for seeds. Okay. I can't grow in there.
So with that, like the beginning of the year, probably like this time, has to be like, I imagine it's pretty stressful.
Yeah. Listen, you throw my IDE pro forma and business plan on top of it, and I was just like, what am I doing right now? So like, yeah, I'm starting seeds, and yeah, I'm just in the midst of that.
Is there anything like, yeah, I mean, without a place indoor, like is there any way that, I mean, the weather just sucks. Like,
sure does.
It sucks. Like, how do you plan? I'm sure that like we could get really into the weeds here. It's a good one. But like, how is there any way to combat that, or can you just like wait? Like,
yeah.
How?
I mean, like, the only way in which to like combat Mother Nature, basically, is to like get a large like hoop house, greenhouse to physically grow in. That's the only way you can kind of even out the playing field that in the hand she's going to deal you. So, I mean, and that's part of this season is getting that so I can extend my season, so I can grow like some of these tender annuals, like they can't handle these super wet, late springs or wet summers. Like they just can't handle it. So
when you're like prepping for the upcoming season and what will be available, like you have your subscriptions.
Yeah.
And we've kind of talked about this outside of this, obviously, but are you planning, so like you see the weather as you're starting, are you planning the subscriptions based off of what you think will work given how the weather has been? Like how are you thinking through is it just kind of like, yeah, how are you thinking through that?
Yeah, I mean, so like part of like getting a subscription from me is the kind of like disclaimer, hey, I have zero control of when these flowers are due.
Yeah.
But like I will have tulips in April. I cannot tell you the exact date in April, but I will have tulips in April.
Okay.
Now there's like methods and ways in which I could like, and if I, had like a greenhouse, I could have started tulips and had tulips in February,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
But, and some people do that like in their basement, like, there's all these things that I can try to do.
Yeah.
And maybe I will. I'll feel feisty, a little spicy next year.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so like that has to be just kind of what it is. Like I will contact you, and I try to be like with all of my customers and subscribers, like I'm as honest as possible and just like,
there's only so much I can do.
Right. There's only so much I can do. Or like, hey, you're going to have to wait a week. I'm really sorry. And I realize moving forward, and growing as a business, like I'll be able to ensure flowers.
Well, you're not that far. Like, what? This is the third year?
Yeah, this is my third season.
Like those are all, like you said, those are not easy things to fix, but like they're fixable, or there are solutions to them. So,
yeah.
I mean, shit, year 3, like killing it. It's like,
I mean, I don't know about killing it, but we're still here.
Like, okay, cool. That's the next step. Next step is, how do I make sure that I have to rely less on Mother Nature?
Yeah.
She's very unpredictable, especially around here. Okay, so that's all good. From the business side, has there been anything that has come up that is like significant, like a significant challenge for you? Like it feels like your overhead, I mean, you're at your house, so that's all. You don't really have to pay for space other than at the markets. And are you, well, I guess I'm going to get off on a little kind of all over the place right now, but
that's okay.
Are most sales now coming from the different markets that you go to? Is that like the kind of the key? Okay. Okay, so then back to, have there been any challenges on the business side that have come up with in the last like 2 years that have kind of been like significant hurdles? Also, no is
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think so. Like, it was like a massive, and I mean, it continues to be like an investment. There's a lot of pivoting that happens in farming. And I mean, like, I'm lucky that I don't have like livestock or animal,
yeah,
because like I
yeah,
can't even imagine things that
yeah,
and the expense of that. But, like fencing and
yeah,
compost and like there is expense to it, but as I keep growing, I think it's like it's going to be okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be okay.
Huh. Okay.
At least I hope.
You'll be fine.
It's
Everything's gonna be good.
yeah,
Everything's gonna be good.
totally.
Okay, so is there okay, so on the business side, it's kind of like figuring it out. Everything's relatively smooth when things come up. You just kind of figure it out. Like that's kind of
Right.
it. And now you're in I2E, so that's gonna add some new thoughts and some new wrinkles to the operation, which is good.
Yeah.
That's all good. Okay. And growing wise, like have you, I guess this year you'll probably have technically less than like if you're not spacing everything the same or
No, because I'm putting in gotta keep growing, man.
okay.
So I'm putting
Okay.
in raised beds.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna have like 6 raised beds, and that's gonna be they'll be nicely sized.
Okay. Um okay, so other than like the pests and all of the things with that,
Yeah.
in those first 3 years or I guess you're into the third, but um have there been any like significant learnings from year to year with on the growing side?
On the growing side. Um, yeah, I mean, like, there's lots of things that I'm like, "Well, I'm not gonna grow that again,"
Okay, so really just like figuring out what sells, what you don't want to grow, what's more difficult. That's
Ye
kind of the biggest.
yeah, yeah, I would say that's probably, like, the biggest hurdle is just figuring out, like, w what Kindred, like, what we are, like, what
Hmm.
we do, and how to differentiate,
Okay.
our flowers from other people's flowers, you know?
How, okay. How are you, like, how are you thinking about that?
So I take the consumers into mind, what they like.
Hmm.
But also I think I have like stylistically, I know what I like and I know what I want to offer and what I want bouquets to look like.
Okay.
So I mean that kind of translates a little differently for like a farmer's market because it's just very much like, oh yeah, here's a little $10 bouquet, like here you
Yeah.
go. But for like how I want like orders and arrangements and subscriptions to kind of how I want them to be seen and the company to
Yeah.
be represented through them. So that's like it's like a fine tuning thing,
Okay.
growing the flowers, arranging them, and
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Because I mean, anyone can just like throw some flowers together, and I mean,
Hmm.
they're always going to be pretty,
Hmm.
like but what differentiates our bouquets from other people's bouquets, or
Okay. That's okay, that's interesting.
yeah,
Um, that sounds kind of fun.
it is, yeah.
That sounds like a fun thing to like kind of hone.
Well, and it's nice because like I can pick what I'm growing.
Hmm.
I have a lot of control over that. I'm not bringing in
Yeah.
flowers. I'm not buying, imported. Like I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And flowers are always beautiful, wherever they come from. But it's nice to really just see my vision like happening.
Yeah.
You know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's something that evolves, but do you feel like at this point that you've got that like at least close to kind of honed in, like what the vision for Kindred is, like what your brand is, like what that looks like? Do you think that's pretty honed at this point? Like obviously it's always going to like shift and meander and do all the things, but it's like, does it feel pretty locked in right now?
It does. Yeah. Like it's like everything that I'm growing this year, I'm really excited about. And it's
That's nice.
Right. And
that's a good spot to be.
Yeah. Because, I would try things just to kind of feel it out, And it's like, I can honestly say now, like my space, right? There's nothing that I'm growing that I'm like, it doesn't have a place, or how am I going to use that? Like, I still leave space for a little experimentation, or, like there's some grains and like pods that I'm growing this year that I'm like, I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I'll just like throw it to the wind and see what sticks.
Yeah.
But yeah, like flower wise, it's really nice that I'm like, everything that I'm growing is something that I know is going to be beautiful, and it's going to look beautiful together. And it's, it's all like making sense now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's got to be like, that's a pretty nice feeling.
It is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything that we haven't touched on that you think would be important that we've missed? We'll go through all of your links and all of that at the end. But,
thanks.
Anything that we haven't talked about?
Well, we talked about a lot of stuff.
I know.
Like,
we
holy
hit a lot.
smokes.
Okay. Then where can all of the humans of Earth find all of your things? All the links will be down below, but for the non-readers.
So you can find me on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Kindred Flower Farm. And I have a website. It's kindredflowerfarm.com.
Easy enough.
I know. I'm like, I think that's
pretty easy.
Right. I think that's it.
Okay. All of those links will be down below. Definitely check those out. If you have any suggestions for guests that you would like to see, email me. That email's down below. If you found this helpful or you enjoyed this or anything, please review, please share, please do all those things. Super helpful. Thank you for being a guest. This was fun.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for listening. Have a marvelous week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.